Seeking fraud, a demagogue, an obscurantist, and a servant of earthly powers who befriends despotic world leaders in her role as the enforcer of a highly conservative and reactionary Catholic Church. Fair?
It seems to me grossly unfair that a lady who cannot fight back, aged 84, like His Royal Highness Prince Charles, is not in a position to answer back.
I couldn't believe anybody could actually make a programme about Mother Theresa like that without getting her side.
I think the program, the criticisms Mr. Hitchens makes of Mother Theresa are so shallow and do not stand up to scrutiny. The only sense that the program makes to me is that it is a not too veiled attack on the Catholic Church.
The picture really made Mother look quite evil and demonic, something she certainly isn't.
She has hundreds of homes around the world, looking after hundreds of thousands of people. And I can't believe she is that bad. I'm sorry, she is no hell's angel.
Mother Teresa's flagship institution is her home for the dying, a hospice which purportedly sweetens the last moments of otherwise destitute lives.
My initial impression was of all the photographs and footage I've ever seen of Belsen and places like that, because all the patients had shaved heads. There are no chairs anywhere, there are just these stretcher beds, and they're like First World War stretcher beds. There's no garden, no yard even, no nothing. And I thought, what is this? This is 2 rooms with 50 to 60 men in one, 50 to 60 women in another. They're dying. They're not being given a great deal of medical care. They're not being given painkillers really beyond aspirin and maybe, if you're lucky, some Brufen or something for the sort of pain that goes with terminal cancer and the things that they were dying of. And I thought, what's the point?
Modesty, simplicity, humility. By these canonical keywords, we are taught that we may recognize saints. Yet Mother Teresa regards herself as mandated by heaven, which is hardly modest. She lends spiritual solace to dictators and to wealthy exploiters, which is scarcely the essence of simplicity.
From its ludicrous title, Hell's Angel, to its final exaggerated accusations, Christopher Hitchens showed only that Channel 4 has sunk to the lowest form of tabloid television.
It didn't make an attempt to present a balanced picture either of Mother Teresa or of the Catholic Church in broader terms. There were a number of insinuations made, implications, for instance, that her association with Robert Maxwell was somehow improper. She was shown there alongside this man, known to be a fraudster, let's say. And the implication was that because she was associated with him, that she was somehow involved in that sort of dishonesty.
Sometimes when I think of Mother, I wonder if I've done just right. Though I'm many miles away, I can almost hear her say, "Where's my wandering boy tonight?"
Robert Maxwell's genius for self-promotion made a nice fit with Mother Teresa's talent for fundraising. It became hard to decide which of the two was using which, or was it both?
For the record, Mother Teresa had never heard of Robert Maxwell until the day before they were introduced. Given 24 hours to search and find a rich person in London who would help her to build a hospice for the dwellers of Cardboard City, he was the only person I
couldn't say that that was true of anyone but myself. I haven't been for 14 years.
So, do you think you're qualified to make such a program? Why did you make it?
Amply qualified, yes.
Well, why did you make it?
Because I've long thought that the Niagara of uncritical publicity with which this woman has been conveyed to us is deceptive, and has presented someone who is a selfless and dedicated and tireless worker for Catholic fundamentalism under the cloak, perhaps thrown over her by us rather than by herself. She, I think, is not a hypocrite about it, but presented anyway as someone who does it purely for humanitarian reasons.
I just don't understand why you didn't go and talk to Mother Teresa and examine the work she was doing.
Perhaps ask Mr. Janouszek about his funding arrangements here, but I would be, it's certainly true we would have been very happy to go, and I would have loved to go again.
Can I answer that?
Everything we need to know about Mother Teresa, we were able to put on the air.
Roger, I've been on this programme before with you when we've had, for example, Camille Parlier under discussion, various other formats and various other people on Without Walls who essentially present an essay. They have a view, they're invited onto the programme to propound that view, and usually we don't fly them anywhere, we merely listen to them, because it's a programme that actually what it wants, what it expects of people, is ideas, thoughts, new ways of looking at the world. Now that is not a current affairs documentary, and if I may say so, it seems to me as if you're trying to set this particular Without Walls up as a current affairs documentary, which it never was. It was a pamphlet, an essay.
Anyway, if we'd been to Calcutta, we wouldn't have been sure of finding her in, would we? Because the whole point about the film was to say this woman travels the world, intervening directly in politics on the reactionary side, at the invitation of conservative politicians and businessmen. So you've got to be pretty nippy to catch her washing the feet of the poor.
Is that true? Let's talk about these world travels. Now, I want to ask you specifically, Catherine, about the shots, for example, with Maxwell and so on. Why is she meeting these leaders, to some of which Christopher Hitchens and other people will take exception?
I would say that Mother Teresa is partly a pragmatist. If there is money available to help the poor, then she will be glad to receive it. But I also feel that you're crediting her with a degree of political sophistication that she simply doesn't have.
Can I bring in Mary Loudon at this point? Was that the programme you expected to see, that you thought you were taking part in?
No, not entirely.
What did you think you were taking part in?
I thought it was going to be less polemical. Now that's clearly Christopher's style, and fair enough, but I felt, when I watched it, I thought, oh goodness, you know, I don't feel the same way. And of course, if you're involved in a programme like that, by proxy, you're seen as feeling exactly the same way as the presenter. I don't. I disagree with Christopher on many things, but I also agree with him on some, and I think some of the questions he raised were very valid, but I personally wouldn't have raised them in that way.
Can I bring in Christina, because Valdemar is saying, in essence, that Without Walls has a clear identity, it's pamphleteering. Was that a suitable approach, this pamphleteering approach to Mother Teresa?
Any intelligent investigation of any icon, whether it be a spiritual icon or a cultural icon, would be fine. This was not an intelligent investigation. You did not challenge or test your ideas against anybody else's opinion or facts and figures. Indeed, when I had heard first about the program, I had heard that there was going to be a knocking of Mother Teresa as a Florence Nightingale who really lacked the health and medical know-how. And I expected to see doctors who would speak on the program and accuse Mother Teresa of not having the right kind of medical facilities available or the medical care. Not at all. The only people you had as witnesses against this very holy woman, a woman who you know we all feel incredibly strongly about, as you can see from my own anger, self-righteous indignation, is the only witnesses you had were a cameraman, a journalist, stroke writer, and a writer stroke journalist. Quite frankly, nobody from the religious environment, nobody from the medical environment, because
You say you're disappointed it wasn't about her role as a doctor or nurse.
No, I'm saying that if you're going to level accusations, do it with people who know, who are experts in their field.
Ma'am, I did not interrupt you once. Which we never said it was. You now say you're disappointed about a false impression that none of us gave you. I'm sorry for your disappointment. I'm sorry for Mary's disappointment if it comes to that. I'm sorry for Mother Teresa's innocence, which is pleaded whenever she's caught doing something politically foolish.
What have you caught
Here is
her
the
doing?
situation.
She was guilty by association throughout the film.
I didn't interrupt you once.
Well, that's too bad. You have knocked somebody who is very precious to a great many people.
As was said at the beginning of the show, and has been repeated since, and there's rather foolish criticism that we did not put both sides.
Absolutely.
We set out to be the first media, print or film, criticism of this woman ever to appear. We took for granted the fact that she has been the recipient of what I earlier described as a Niagara of favourable publicity. She probably is the least criticised woman on earth, least criticised human being on earth. We thought we could take that for granted. We put the case against. We didn't pretend to do other than that.
What would have been lovely would to have been a more interesting discussion about Mother Teresa as an icon of our making.
Can I bring, I think there's a, Valdemar, can I bring Valdemar in here, because there is, I think, a confusion here, that part of the programme is an attack on her as an individual. Part of the programme is an attack on what the media has made of her, but you've attacked her, Valdemar, for what the media has made of her, not what she did.
All of the programme is an attempt to try and give Christopher Hitchens' view of Mother Theresa a platform. That I will certainly accept. But we've done that with other icons on Without Walls, and we've done it with other writers on Without Walls. It is not fair to try and accuse the programme of not being a current affairs documentary.
But can I ask about some of the techniques you used? I mean, take the reference to Robert Maxwell. She met this person once, it was arranged. She talked to him about 40 minutes about her faith. The money went straight to people in London. Nothing of that was in your film. Why not?
The Robert Maxwell moment, I mean, you played a bit of it there, and we had that rather silly country and western tune underneath it. I mean, surely everybody could see that was a farcical moment.
This is guilt by association, isn't it? You take every photograph you can get of Mother Teresa meeting with world leaders,
we do some,
and you dump on her.
I did a lot of things in that show, and in the way I wrote it, to get people's attention. Sure, I've got 25 minutes to set against about 20 years worth of drenching, sycophantic, uncritical publicity.
So you can be sensationalist.
Sure, I get people's attention any way I can. Absolutely, I mock her a bit.
Anyway,
that's why I said presumable virgin, to offend people, stir them up, that kind of thing.
So you use any techniques, anything.
Nothing is beneath me on that.
Christina, have a last word for this part of the programme.
I felt that this was not a journalistic investigation. It was a manipulation.
It never claimed to be.
It was a manipulation. It was a parading of Mr. Hitchens' prejudices. And I was so sorry to see that Channel 4 was giving it any credit, any time, any airing for what was merely one man's obvious 15-year prejudice against a woman whose very mission in life, whose very motivation he does not understand.
We're going to have to stop this part of the discussion here. In the second part, after the break, we'll be discussing Channel 4's general policy towards the Catholic Church and religion. Join us then.
Someone can save you up to a third on a wide range of fine fragrances. Who can save you up to a third on fine fragrances? Boots.
That's your game. Right, I'll be absorbed.
With no shareholders and no commission to middlemen, it's an equitable life, Henry.
When this woman makes soups, she only uses the finest hand-picked ingredients, Highland water, fresh vegetables, and herbs that bring out the true taste of the soup. And only when she's completely happy with a recipe will Ina Baxter put her name to it. Baxter's Soups, from the family of fine foods.
What's the difference between the cooperative bank and the other major banks? Is it that we have 24-hour telephone banking? Is it that we have a network of high street branches? Is it that we have the use of over 6,000 link cash machines? Or is it that we promise never to invest our customers' money in countries with oppressive regimes?
Welcome back. So has Channel 4 a wider agenda to undermine the Catholic Church? Vicky Kostick reports again.
This assault on the Catholic Church is only the latest to grab the headlines. Jonathan Porritt's Sex, Sin and Survival, shown just prior to the Cairo Population Conference, and Karen Armstrong's The Pope's Divisions also fit a formula. We're given a tabloid title with dubious connection to the content of the film. We're not told anything about the presenter. It is only their body language that gives their claims authority and legitimacy. Endless pictures of the Pope and bishops are used as if they are the Church. In fact, two of the films use the same very old shot of the bishops leaving St. Peter's in Rome. And all show dying babies in the Third World, as if the Roman Catholic Church were to blame. What Pope, what saint, what church could possibly withstand the Channel 4 treatment? Karen Armstrong's The Pope's Divisions attacked the myth of a jet-setting Pope, attractive to Catholic and non-Catholic alike. But that too was a creation of the media. She accuses the Pope of being a fundamentalist, but neither explains nor proves it. And when offered an opinion different to their own, the programme makers don't want to know.
Myself and a number of my friends were invited to participate in a panel discussion for the programme. We did so and gave our contributions, which could broadly be described as supportive of and loyal to Pope John Paul II. Later on, we were informed by correspondents that our contributions would not be included because they didn't fit in with the final version, the final shape the film took. I believe, having seen the programme, that our contributions were excluded because Karen Armstrong disagreed with our views.
Now, the Catholic Church and the Pope must and do expect to be critically analysed by the media. That's part of being in the public forum. But I think they have a right to expect two things. One is that they be treated with reasonable balance and fairness. And the other thing is that people should be able to recognise the institution and the Pope to which they owe allegiance in the finished product.
Channel 4's religious output recently has tended to be very critical of the Catholic Church, and it would be easy enough for people to claim that therefore there is an anti-church bias in it. And according to the Independent Television Commission's programme code, a religious programme, it says here, every attempt must be made to ensure that the belief and practice of religious groups are not misrepresented, and that programmes about religion are accurate and fair.
So how has the ITC responded to complaints about the Pope's divisions?
We have upheld a number of complaints about the Pope's divisions on the basis that it was unfair to the subject.
In what way has the Pope's divisions contravened the programme code?
The programme was too one-sided, we felt. The presenter had very strong views in a particular way, and all the interviewees expressed views similar to hers, and the net result to us was that the subject was not properly examined, or it wasn't set in a proper context, to be fair.
Television seems to see the Catholic Church only in black and white. The Church thinks and operates in terms of millennia. Television understands only 10-second sound bites. I feel hurt and angry about programmes which continually fail to show the Church that I know, love and sometimes want to criticise. It's easy to knock the Pope or an ageing nun. It's far more difficult to explain why millions of people in this country do still go to church. Television is showing itself incapable of representing a deeply complex institution, which nevertheless still preaches high moral standards and the value of the transcendent in our lives. These programmes from Channel 4 make fools of Roman Catholics, and yet to anyone with faith, it's Channel 4 that's both arrogant and ignorant.
Well, with me to discuss that report, and in particular now the ITC's findings, is Peter Grimsdale, who's responsible for religion at Channel 4. Do you accept the ITC's findings? Do you agree with them as they relate to the Pope's divisions?
We've taken them on board. I think we've agreed to disagree about the accuracies or inaccuracies. I mean, in fact, when they put their original response to us, they misquoted the programme when they were accusing us of being inaccurate.
But how about the question, their statement that it was unfair and unbalanced? Do you accept that?
It wasn't a balanced programme because it was a view, it was a personal view by Karen Armstrong.
But there's a real problem here, I think, for the channel, a tension between your responsibility for minorities and to make sure the views get on this channel that don't get on others, and your responsibility to be fair. So what is your policy now in the wake of the ITC findings?
Well, my view is to look at the whole totality of religious output. We are doing a programme in response to these programmes today. What I think we have to look at is neither Valdemar or I are going to stop commissioning challenging programmes and provocative programmes.
But are you going to commission anything additional which might reflect?
Absolutely, I do already.
What would you, Vicky, what would you like to see now?
Well, I would like to see some kind of assurance that what we'll get on Channel 4 is a view of the Catholic Church which is not stereotypical, which reflects the kind of church which I recognise, which doesn't continually isolate people, as in two cases, the Pope and Mother Theresa, and issues, abortion and birth control, from the wider understanding of what faith is about.
Please, you'll have to not think that there is some kind of Catholic conspiracy going on at Channel 4. I hardly ever meet Peter, if you really want to know. It's an indictment of the way we work, but we have never actually talked about our religious programming ideas together before now.
But all your
They've come out totally separately.
All your personal view programmes have been antagonistic to mainstream Catholicism.
Well, I'm interested in Catholicism because, as a commissioning editor for arts, art and Catholicism have always had an incredibly strong symbiotic relationship.
So why did you think that Christopher, who I believe is an atheist, was an appropriate figure to do this?
I didn't consider Christopher's religion when I don't actually look into see his CV and see what denomination he is. We don't do that at
But if
Channel
you're
4.
what you all here, ladies, and since some of you represent Catholic institutions of one kind or another, perhaps I could ask you to comment on Mrs. Victoria Gillick, a prominent lay Catholic, who said that the problem with my film, said the problem with our film, listen, stop bleating, who said that the problem with our film was that the chief executive of this channel, Michael Grade, is a Jew, and that my executive producer, Tariq Ali, is a Muslim. Now, would you care to associate or dissociate yourself with that piece of bigotry?
If you equate bigotry with religious perspective.
What do you think of Mrs. Gillett?
She is obviously a bigot. Anybody who said what she did is a bigot. But Christopher, we all believe in religion. We all feel insulted, tremendously insulted by what you showed. But we don't believe that it's because somebody was Jewish and somebody was Muslim.
No one who didn't, no one's views on Mother Teresa, I suspect, are going to be radically altered by this programme.
But surely that was what you were trying to do.
Anybody
trying to radically alter?
We're trying to raise some questions.
We were trying to force a reconsideration. We did so by a selection of anecdotes, different kinds, which taken together or singly in my submission show that this is a woman with a very strong secular, political, worldly agenda. Future discussion of her will have to take this into account. So we win and you lose. Because it'll no longer be possible simply to have her bathed in Malcolm Muggeridge's kindly light.
Final question to this side, as it were, Peter Grimsdale. Are you saying that as a result of this your policy will not change and that there is no prospect in the near future of a film being made which looks from a different perspective at Catholicism?
I think, well, I'm sure, in fact, I think I can promise you that in the next 12 months there will be another film on Channel 4 that looks at a different aspect of Catholicism. There is no question about that. I mean, I won't go into the list. I must make the point, I'm sure you would agree with this, that it is much more dangerous to do a programme that purports to be balanced.
Absolutely.
But where there is some kind of hidden agenda. That's the dangerous kind of programme. The programme makers who come on this programme and say from time to time, who say, well, we've done the research and this is what we found to be true. You know, that's where I get much more suspicious. At least our programmes, these ones that we're talking about, are transparent in their view.
Vicky, I must give you the last word.
Just to say that we've been asked to trust and respect Mr. Hitchens' reputation as a journalist by Valdemar. And I would like the reputation of the Catholic Church to be trusted and respected, and that the programming of Channel 4 should reflect that.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I'm sorry we have to leave it there. Join us next week. Goodbye.
English took me to that place.